Hey everyone, Tactics here with my full raid guide for Mythic Dathea Ascended, which is looking like it's going to be one of the harder bosses in this raid for a lot of cutting edge guilds. In this video, I'll go over things like how we handled the ad platforms, debuff, soaking, and other things like cooldown management, positioning, and movement that you should be aware of. To start off, let's talk about the infusers, because one of the main changes for Mythic is that you have to spawn them yourself, which is done by putting 10 of those conductive mark debuffs, which have no duration now, into one of the inactive ones around the platform, as you can see here. Every time you do put a debuff into them, it clears that mark from that player, so they no longer have it, but it does put a short 4-second stacking dot on the entire raid, which for the most part you don't ever want to go above 2 stacks just to reduce your overall raid damage taken. Once you put those 10 marks into an ad, it'll become active, and at the same time, it'll clear any of the marks put into any of the other ads, which means if you ever get extra ads by accident, or maybe if you want to clear some ads on purpose later on in the fight, you're able to put them into dormant ads that you don't plan to activate next, and effectively clear any of those accidents, with the only downside being a few extra ticks of that dot that I mentioned earlier. So it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world if you get a few extra marks here. And on our kill pool, we actually did get several extra marks as well, so I can talk through how we handled that well. Now, let's walk through actually how we did the soaks themselves throughout the fight, because it does change up a little bit. Right at the top of the fight here, this very first marks, we're going to purposefully duplicate 2 marks. As you hear, we have our Resto Druid running over a nearby range DPS that got the marks. Currently, Ranger just kind of planted with their marks. No one's moving because we know we're duplicating 2. So immediately we have Resto duplicate 2. So he runs, gets a mark, soaks. A little delay there because the hitbox can be weird, and we put in a 3rd stack. This is the only time in the fight we ever go to 3 stacks of this dot here, because Lust is rolling, everyone's healthy. There's not a lot of raid damage going out at all besides this dot, so it's very, very safe to go to 3 stacks here and just get that ball rolling. And then from here we'll go down and we'll do either 2 stacks or for the remaining dots, or just a single stack followed by 2 stacks. So yeah, we do double there, we wait, and then we do a single. And we're now, as you can see here, 60 energy, and I can probably link this weekor as well down in the description for you guys to get. It basically just shows the energy of the current marks you have active, and then who has current marks. So currently no one has marks, and then it goes out, and those are the 4 people that got the marks. So something to note here, the cyclone is about to happen, and you don't want like a big stack during the cyclone, because the cyclone is that raid damage where you're going to have any sort of overlap that it's going to kill people. So what we do here is we go 2 instantly from this set of marks to get it done before the cyclone goes out. So our 2 stack is cleared, and then just during the cyclone, we just clear as we can 1 stack at a time, spawning this very first ad mid cyclone, as you can tell. And again, very important, 1 stack. If a cyclone is out, 1 stack, never go above 1 stack there. You don't need that extra raid damage at all. It's very, very scary. So our first ad has spawned now. We've picked it up, and then we're going to rotate clockwise around the room here. So we start at square, then we go to triangle, then diamond, then X, and then down here in the corner there's star as well. So the next marks coming out are going to go into triangle, and they'll either go in a set of 2 twice, so 2-2, or a 2-1-1. What's important here, and the most important thing, is making sure that players that are on this ad platform, this very first platform, are cleared relatively quickly, and they're not holding on to it for whatever reason, for traffic or whatever it is. Prioritize having players in that first group here clear first, so that they can pre-position for whenever these ads spawn and get to their platform on time. Moving forward here, I'll talk through ad positioning after this. Let's focus on the soaks for now. So the next set of marks is coming out in 12 seconds here. So this will be coming out when your first platform is already over here. And I'll talk about the platforms later on in the video. But basically what happens is that the group here is taking a lot of damage, which ramps up over the course of this platform from those Thunderbolt stacks. So when these marks go out, you either have 2 options. One, you can do a 2-1-1 clear again, or you can do 4 single clears. What you really don't want to do is to go up to 3 stacks here, or to have 2 stacks later on in your soak, right? Doing a 1-1-2 is pretty bad because this is ramping damage. So if you see, I believe we do a 2-1-1 here, because early on in the platform, we're pretty safe. We're not in much danger at all. So we go up to 2 stacks there, and then we'll do a 1 and a 1. But if you're not comfortable initially, I'd recommend just doing 4 1s on this platform, and whenever players are on the platform, just because that ramping damage can get out of hand. So if you do a late soak, like that's just a 1 stack with high Thunderbolt stacks, and we got pretty low as well. So be aware of that. It's something that you want to avoid, and it will prevent a lot of deaths if you don't stack high up on that platform. As you can see now, we are getting more soaks as well out because as you're coming back, there is another set of marks going out. As you can see here as well, that Cyclone is beginning to cast. So this is another situation where we end up doing 4 singles just because we don't really want a bunch of stacks in the middle of this Cyclone. The first 2 go into Triangle to spawn that ad. So now we have our second platform ad, and then the next 2 are going into Diamond here. And you can see we're just taking our time with it. Cyclone is ended, and then we finish off there, and we get another set of marks. And same as previously when Platform Group 1 wanted to go to their platform, this mark set is the same but for Platform Group 2. So anyone in Platform Group 2 here will want to clear ASAP, whereas people in Platform Group 1, you're okay to chill a little bit because Platform Group 2, they're going soon. So they need to make sure that they have no marks over on that platform. This is another kind of one of those 2-1-1 situations, or 2-2 into that Diamond ad. So you can see they're going over there, and then the Platform Group will head over once you know the platforms, and we get another set of marks right after they leave. And similarly, this will go either 2-1-1 or 4 singles into the Diamond marker here, just because again there is that group over on the platform, so you don't want to over soak here at all. And you see there we're doing 2 into the purple and 2 into the red. And what that does, because you're putting it into the red before you've actually spawned the Diamond ad, is that it essentially just clears those 2 marks, which is basically those 2 marks that we spawned on purpose to get that first ad to spawn early. So it basically clears that for later on in the fight. Also, be prepared on the fly here to kind of call where any extra marks are going. As you see, we did the soaks here, but we still have an extra mark. So we got an extra mark during this set. That's okay. I believe this one ends up going into Diamond here potentially. Oh no, it does go into X. So we end up putting the extra one into X here just to make sure that it doesn't go, that it also gets cleared, right? We don't want that carrying forward, so we want to get rid of that stack. And then we get the next set out, which is another 2 on Diamond, 2 on X here. So the first 2 go into Diamond, and it's at the beginning of the Cyclone, so you can do a 2-1-1. Or you can do 4 singles. Picking up that Diamond ad here, and as you can see, the other 2 are just going into X, which has now been fully cleared because we spawned this Diamond ad. And now this is going to be, of course, a little similar to what you've seen previously. Group 1 now is going to their next platform, so these marks come out. Anyone in Group 1 wants to prioritize clearing over on their X marker there. 2-1-1 works here, 2-2 works here, 4 singles works here. It doesn't really matter as long as they're cleared before they need to get to the platform, which is going to come in a few seconds here. We go to the platform, same deal. Marks are going to come out while we're on the platform, and you just want to either 2-1-1 or 1-1-1. 1? Yeah, 1-1-1. 4 ones. Lots of ones. And in this case, again, you're splitting it between star and X marker. So 2 go into star, 2 go into X, just to help you clear some of those star debuffs, which will be useful later on in the fight. Marks will come back as we're coming back as well. We're waiting for the marks, notably. I'll talk about that later, though. We get blown back. Right after the set of marks goes out. And ideally here, it would be 2 into star and 2 into X. And I think this is actually where we have a mistake on our kill pool. We end up putting a few too many here into star, which delays our spawning of this ad. So right now we have the 2 in star, so we'd want our next 2 markers to actually go into X here and spawn that ad during the Cyclone like we have previously, so we have enough time to cleave it down. But we end up putting a few too many into star here, so as you see, we'll have star, so we'll have to spawn it on the next actual spawn of marks in 5 seconds after the Cyclone. So we do call for a hard swap to this ad as soon as it does spawn here from this next set of marks, because we are very, very close. Like, ads are spawning in 10 seconds now. Normally we've had another like 10 plus seconds of cleave on this ad, so we hard swap to it. So note, if this ever happens, you ever get a late spawn an ad, it is still salvageable. Hard swap to the ad, do as much damage to it as you can so you can catch up and actually get your platform group over to where they need to be in time. With the remaining marks available from here on out, you can just dump them either into star to clear them if you absolutely need to. Mostly squishy DPS or melee would be doing that, as anyone who is tanky enough or has access to like an immunity like ice block or like cloak of shadows, that kind of thing, will want to kind of hold on to their marks for the remainder of the fight or until they can immune them off if possible, because it's very, very useful to be able to skip this 5th ad entirely and never spawn it, which means at most you can clear up to 90 energy or 9 marks worth of these conductive marks into this ad so that you don't spawn it. This basically means that you're in a DPS race once this group comes back to kill the boss before you get overwhelmed by the stacking damage amp into the boss from the 5th and final ad platform. Early on, one of the strats that was used by a lot of the top end guilds was to actually spawn this 5th ad, then send over just one tank and usually like a holy paladin, because they had an easily accessible kick to just chain interrupt that big ad on the platform and live as long as possible, which would delay the stacking of this damage amp buff on Dathea herself for a significant amount of time if you could live long enough, which would help them kill the boss deeper into that like soft and rage period. However, at this point in the tier, with your increased damage and healing throughput on top of just having more stamina, I think it's a bit of a bait. It's probably more difficult than you'd want to execute for some of the mid or low NCE guilds. And in general, I think you're just better off here just planting and tunneling, just pumping into the boss and killing her before she kills you, as opposed to just doing anything like that. You can usually last quite a bit of time into this kind of soft and rage here. In fact, I actually believe at the time we killed this as our first prog kill of Dathea, this was literally the longest kill of Dathea available on logs. It was over 9 minutes long, so you can live a very, very long time into this enrage once you actually once they come back. And so we're just not spawning, and you see there is going to be, actually it's not even, yeah, there's the active ad, the boss is gaining stacks there, and we're just hard tunneling the boss, burning her before we die. Now, let's talk a bit about the platform group. So you do want to run 2 groups here, of course, but you aren't going to be splitting your raid directly in half, as it will run you into problems like with boss damage and stuff like that. You just don't need that much damage over on the platforms, because as you'll see, maybe holding damage a little bit. But basically, we had 8 players in each group, 1 tank, 6 DPS, 1 healer. An important part of each platform here is making sure that you have someone that can group up ads relatively quickly, so that you're able to cleave them down efficiently and get back to Dathea in a timely manner. The best tools for this are A-Bomb Limb, available to any DK spec, and Disrupting Shout from Protection Warriors. Divine Toll from Protection Paladins may work as well. I haven't personally tested it. The one problem that Divine Toll runs into that Disrupting Shout doesn't is that these mobs are a little bit finicky on the platform in terms of whether they want to walk in or not. Sometimes they will get interrupted, for example, and they'll just decide to chill and stand still and not move in anywhere unless they're actually taunted, which is why Disrupting Shout works really well, because it taunts and interrupts the mob, so it forces them to group up really nicely. And I can actually show you the first platform here. So we'll go over to the first platform here. But basically having access to 2 of those spells for either a DK and a warrior, as you see here, we have 1 DK and 1 prot warrior, so they're in separate groups for this reason, to make grouping easier. So we see the big group here, and that's other thing to note for this platform and the ad platforms in general. The formation is slightly randomized. It's a random 1 of 4 potential formations, and actually I'll show you here. So these are kind of like the potential formations the ads can take. It'll always be one of these 4, and some of these are easier to deal with than others. For example, for the Prot Warrior group in particular, because of course the DK is going to be gripping them all in. For the Prot Warrior group, this one, really, really easy. Prot Warrior can interrupt all of these ones, and then you just have 1 knockback for this one. This one is the worst one. Prot Warrior can only kind of get 3, maybe 4 of these ones by positioning here. And then you need to just drag them over on top of the other ones. This one, Prot Warrior interrupts this one, and you drag over to these ones, which you can also knock a little. And then this one probably can interrupt all 5 of these here, and you just knock this one in and move over to it as well. So some of these easier to handle than others, just be aware of that. Back to the clip though, here we are jumping in here. You can see this is the 4 and 2 formation, so I interrupt the 4 and I drag over towards the 2. And as you can see, like right, this one was interrupted. It was actually just standing there doing nothing. It was just knocked, and it just did nothing because, you know, it's finicky, like I was saying. So be aware of that. As the prot warrior group, you will need to pull the section that you interrupt on top of the other group of them. And then, as I mentioned, you're AoEing here. You want to make sure these Thundercallers do die before the Infuser, but you don't want the Infuser to live insanely long either, right? That Infuser still needs to die in a timely manner. And what you're going for here is probably around 16 to 17 stacks of that Thunderbolt for when you come back. This Thunderbolt damage does ramp up very quickly, whereas like 16 stacks is pretty chill, but 18 stacks is a giant pain. So really 16, 17 is really what you're aiming for to come back at. And like I mentioned, making sure you're either doing 4 ones of the soaks here or doing a 2-1-1 when that damage is ramping up is very, very important to not just nuke your platform group. On top of this, to help with overall raid damage on these platforms, we are doing like CC chains. We got Sundering, that one went off. But we've got Blinding Light. I think this is actually the end of our CC chain, so there's not much. But basically, these ads random target like anyone in the raid, not necessarily on this platform. So you can do some CC chains to kind of assist with that raid damage as well. Initially, for progression, we did start by putting things like damage pots, like certain trinket uses and big cooldowns on these platforms just to ensure that they died and we could see deeper into the fight to help progress there. Even if people miss going up to the platform, we'd be able to kill it with these kind of cooldown timings and stuff like that. Slowly, though, we did start peeling back these cooldowns to put them more onto Dathea to gain that boss damage so that we could kill her in time. So just be careful, though, that you don't pull back too much at one time and you just end up being unable to kill that platform entirely without being overwhelmed. At the same time, though, you don't want to have so much extra damage on these platforms that you come back too early. The big thing you want to avoid here is coming back before these marks go out, because if you're like in the air here, you can like get marks mid-air, and that's not ideal for sure. You don't want to be getting those marks as the platform group. So usually what we'll do, as if we're ever in a state like this, we'll kind of hang out for a little bit. We've called for a stop DPS here. We wait. At this point, the marks are going out. We kill boss or mini boss, infuser, whatever you want to call it. Marks have already gone out, and so we're safe to come back at that point. So if you do have a little bit of extra damage, that's okay. Just note that you may need to audible call for a stop. Another thing to note is your platform RNG can slightly impact. So for example here, we're soaking into the triangle ad at this moment, and the marks, like we said, we waited for them. The marks respond, so they're slowly moving towards triangle to soak there. If we had been on the triangle platform, we'd be coming back on top of the triangle mark basically, and it's very possible, it has happened to us on some of our pulls, where we like literally come back, marks are out, and we just land on top of someone with the mark. So be aware, if you're going to a platform that's going to be near the ad you want to be putting marks into, make sure people are aware of that and are pre-positioned away initially so that the group coming back can land safely without duplicating any additional marks, and it'll make your life a lot easier. When it comes to actually getting over to the platform, let's fast forward to my second group on the platform here. So you basically will want to try and cleave this guy as much as possible. As you see, I wait for the Cyclone. We have kicks on him here, of course, and I just bring him onto the boss. We're cleaving him, and you basically want to kill him about 5 to 10 seconds after this ad spawn here, the Coalescing Storm. We're just cleaving, and then once that actually starts the storm, we can see where we're going here. We're the third platform here, so it's already known where we're going because the boss will have to do each platform once. So we already knew we're going to X here because we went to over here first, and then the second group went to triangle, so X had to be the next platform, so keep that in mind. It goes in sets of 3. But the other way to tell is from this lightning up here. I'll try and rewind a tiny bit maybe if you can see it. So if immediately you see this lightning and there's like a little cloud up here, kind of hard to see, but basically the platform that's going to spawn the ads will have this lightning and these clouds, so you kind of know which one it is. But like I mentioned, we already knew we were going to X here, so we bring it over, and about 5 to 10 seconds after that initial cast starts is when we want this ad dead. In terms of where we're positioning this ad, we found that positioning it on this ring where the ads spawn is kind of a good happy medium. It is able to get to your ad platform, killing this ad literally like anywhere on this platform, on like this half of the platform, just as long as you're positioned right. The problem here though is for your less mobile players that are remaining on the platform to actually stay on and not be knocked off, right? If you kill this ad here, Shadow Priest, for example, they have a rough time. It's not easy for them to stay on the platform if you kill this ad in the middle of the room. So we pull them out to the edge, like I mentioned, this little ring here, we kill them there. And pre-position, of course, the ad group going up to the platform needs to make sure that they're on between the ad and the edge of the platform so they actually get knocked. And pre-position if need be as well. Get over there in time. You really want to get consistency of everyone going to the platform. Here's another example of like the 5-and-1 platform, for example. So we knock one closer to the other, bring it over, and we just cleave like that. Again, notice how they just didn't really want to move here, the ones that weren't explicitly taunted. So just be aware of that here. And again, same timing. You're watching this mark and you're killing these guys here, focusing on the Thundercallers, waiting to kill the Infuser to confirm that you do not have marks. And this actually may be an example of where we're coming back near the X platform with marks out. So we've called to keep the marks away from us, call the mage, so he's moving away. We all landed here, like that was where the mage was, but audibly we called, hey, we're coming back around the X marker, make sure it's cleared of debuffs because we need a spot to come back in. So that's good there. We called it. He moved out of the way. Otherwise, right, that would have been like 5 or 6 duplications of a mark, right? So make sure you're aware that that is a possibility whenever you're on each of the platforms. Maybe you get good luck and you're never at a platform when you're actually soaking an ad there. But as you can see here, one of the platforms we were at was the one we were soaking at the same time as. So be aware that that is a possibility. For tank swaps on this fight, initially you want to have your platform 1 tank take the boss. So I start with the boss here. You'll go to 3 stacks while your platform 2 tank is actually going to be picking up this first ad initially during the cyclone because the platform 1 tank's only at 2 stacks. When that 3rd stack does go out immediately following this cyclone, what's going to happen is the tanks are going to swap. So I, as the platform 1 tank, I'm going to pick up the Infuser ad. The platform 2 tank is going to take the boss, and then basically this lets me move the ad as we see where the first platform is going to be here in a few seconds. Position it once we need it to be positioned. Otherwise, we're just keeping it on our boss for some cleave. Once it gets low, ad starts spawning. Look, see the lightning moving over towards blue, putting it on the blue ring, going to our platform there. And basically what's going to happen is as soon as I come back from this platform, is we're going to taunt swap again. So they're going to have an ad spawning during this cyclone. And so what's going to happen is him as the platform 2 tank is going to go pick up this ad, and I'm going to pick up the boss here. So now I am at 0 stacks, picking up the boss. He's picking up his ad, and we're cleaving it down for them to go to their platform next. One thing to note in terms of stack wise here is you'll usually end up at 4 stacks as the boss platform tank here in that situation. So make sure you do have something available to survive that 4th stack, specifically any form of charge, leap, death advance, whatever. If you don't have anything available, you can be knocked back directly into a tornado to save yourself if you're really desperate. Just keep in mind that it will result in some pretty high damage intake on your end because it knocks you up very high, so the boss will get some casts on you while you're in the air, or sometimes they'll just choose to cast on a nearby DPSer or the off tank, or the inactive tank rather, instead, which can be pretty bad, so be careful. We also found that if you're getting pulled into the boss sometimes during the cyclone, near the end of the cyclone, if you're the active tank, it can end up with the boss immediately tank bustering the inactive tank again, so just be careful. Boss is a little bit finicky because she's stationary in the middle of the room, even though she has a ranged attack she's supposed to cast. Sometimes she doesn't cast it at the active tank. Just be aware of that. But that is it for this video, guys. Hopefully it does help you out and you're able to get Mythic Dathea down. And if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support really does help me out. I'll be posting in-depth Mythic boss guides just like this one for the remaining bosses in the near future as well, so be on the lookout for those. If you have any questions at all about this boss, feel free to drop those down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer, or you can come stop by my Twitch channel at Tactics, where I stream high keys and mythic rating from a tank's POV, and ask me there. Otherwise, thanks everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.